Right, so it's my great pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Sophie Giblin, and she's Kollektiv Gallery's director and curator, and she is known for achieving 2 crowdfunding campaigns successfully, both in just 2 weeks. So she's very successful, very good, and she's going to share her secrets. All right then, so without any further ado, I'll hand over to Sophie.
My name's Sophie Giblin, and I'm the director of Kollektiv Gallery. Kollektiv is a gallery run by emerging artists for emerging artists. We create entrepreneurial opportunities for artists, and we do it all inside of empty high street shops. So basically, the Kollektiv seedling was born exactly 1 year ago when I finished my degree, and since then I've managed 30 artists. I've opened 2 pop-up galleries, done 2 successful crowdfunding campaigns, raised £8,000 and sold countless numbers of artworks. I wanted to show you this because this is the type of artwork that I make. I've been studying art for 8 years. I studied graphic design, fine art, photography, visual communication, illustration, fashion and textiles with knitting, music and visual art, and I mastered in installation and durational performance. I wanted to show you this because I think this kind of artwork shows the sort of person that I am. I drew lines onto a 20-meter roll of tracing paper, and I study concentration, transformation, dedication, and also meditation. And I think if it hadn't have been for this artwork and this project, I probably wouldn't have been able to open Kollektiv Gallery after university. When I finished university this time last year, I realized that there was a problem. I'd said to my friends after uni, shall we open an exhibition? I thought something really low-key, like a 1 or 2 day thing. I didn't know how to do it, but other people had done it, so I assumed we could probably do it as well. And everyone was really excited and really stoked, and then weeks later, into the summer, I think people sort of dropped off of the idea, and they realized that they had to go get full-time jobs, and sometimes really uncreative roles. And the creative roles that they did get, they spent all of their time working on, and they didn't get very much pay for doing it, and I was one of those people as well. And I thought this was really strange because I kept hearing this sentence from employers saying, students don't really need to be paid much, recent graduates, they should be paid the least amount of money, which I find really strange because actually when you've just come out of university where you've been studying luxurious art forms for the last 3 to 8 years, you are at your very creative, your most creative, I think. And I found this really bizarre that you wouldn't be paid properly for it. So I kind of realized after 8 years of art that all the emphasis had been put on creating the artwork and the concept, and so it should be, right? But actually not enough was done on professionalism, what you do with your artwork once you've made it. It shouldn't just go and sit in your parents' house, I thought. So I kind of felt like I needed some business salve, and I went to Central St. Martin's for a week, and I did a little entrepreneurship course. My parents paid for it because I got a first. It was £500, and I think quite worth it. Yeah, it was 1 week long, and it was really intensive. And I learned about intellectual property, artist rights, contracts, negotiation, kind of spotting trends, forecasting, that kind of thing. But it was artist rights and contracts that really stood out for me. I think there was this feeling that a lot of my friends had whenever a contract was put in front of them or even mentioned, that you'd be signing away your life. And I find this really strange because actually a contract can save your life from an employer. It can clarify everything that you're going to be doing for the next however long your project is. I think it can tell you exactly how much you're going to be paid and when your project finishes, and it's so important. Anyway, this course was awesome, and straight after that course I became self-employed. I joined AN, which is kind of for public liability and finding out about jobs, and I joined the Association of Illustrators because I was an illustrator and a graphic designer at the time, and they came in handy for a lot of different reasons. So I did that course, and one day I woke up and I said to my boyfriend, I'm going to open, hello. I woke up one day and I said to my boyfriend after doing that course, yeah, I'm going to open a gallery. And he looked at me with a quizzical look in his eye, like, oh yeah, okay. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to open a gallery and it's going to be for artists like me who want to learn about professionalism, but don't want to have to answer to a huge ancient board. And I'm going to do it in empty high street shops because I remember a conversation from a girl from university who said that there was a guy who came into university to talk about how to fill empty high street shops. And I didn't actually go to the talk, but during that point, this memory started unwinding. And so I looked it up online and was like, how to open a pop-up shop for dummies came up. Incredible. Who would have thought there was a book just specifically for this need? And when the book arrived, I tweeted the guy who wrote the book and I said, if I make this happen, can we go for coffee? And he said yes, and he became my online mentor. Pop-ups are incredible for a couple of different reasons. Pop-ups are non-risky and they're cheap because they are only for 6 weeks and 1 day. The 6 weeks and 1 day thing, you say that you're going to have a contract for this amount of time, and if it's an empty shop, it means that the landlord doesn't have to pay business rates for 3 months afterwards. So that's your hook. It's cheap. It's really cheap to get the rent for that amount of time. It's temporary. So at this point, I read the book, and it was great. I had this mentor online, but I realized that reading a book wasn't going to help me all the way. So I needed to start tapping into other people. And I went to a workshop by We Are Pop-Up, people who can help you find empty high street shops. And the council were there, and so I went to the council and said, hello, here's my idea. And we met for coffee, and the woman from the council said, that's a great idea, but you shouldn't be speaking to me. You should be speaking to that guy over there, who happened to be in the Marwood at the same time, Tom Nixon, my business mentor. And I went over to Tom and was like, here's my idea, can you help me? And he said, how long? When do you want to open your gallery? He said. And I said, in a year's time, so that would be today, I want to open my gallery, and it's going to be great. I can't wait. It's going to solve all these problems. And he yawned at me and said, you're stuck in a mentality, an academic mentality where you think things take a year, but they don't. You have to begin your project immediately. Here are some things you should go and do. Speak to these interesting people, tap into your community, and physicalize your project somehow, because right now it's just this abstract concept. So I did. He told me to go to the Wild School. The Wild School at the time was this really incredible idea for a school. It was a prototype, and it lasted 1 summer last year. And the Wild School is a place where you go to learn, but in order to learn, you should teach as well. So I was taught by children, by 3-year-olds, literally, by elderly men, and I taught myself. I taught other people, I mean. I taught experimental humming classes, and it wasn't really about the humming classes or what I was learning from everybody. It was more about tapping into the community for the first time. I think when you're at university, you feel that university is your community, and it should be, but it happens that we're in an incredible city where there's so many other communities to tap into. And the sooner you recognize those communities, the more helpful it's going to be for you when you leave university. So the Wild School was this awesome, fresh idea for a community, and it really inspired me in Kollektiv Gallery. I was also told to physicalize my idea in some way. So I started a workshop called Fast Art. This is basically in the embodiment of Kollektiv, but runs for about 3 hours rather than 3 months. So the idea is to get a bunch of people together, your friends, and you go to a cafe, you put down £1 each, and you come up with an idea collaboratively. You spend your tiny budget making the idea, you exhibit your thing that you've made together, it's mostly paper-based. You exhibit it in anywhere you can find. I really endorse using random spaces for exhibition spaces, a toilet, a laundrette, an outside wall, it doesn't matter where. And then you have to sell what you have made to the public. And all of this happens in 3 hours. So it's really fast. It's real, like, kick up the bum if you've gone through university and you've taken 6 months to finish a project. The good thing about Fast Art is that you start and you finish a project in one day. You have to collaborate. You're being forced to work with a tiny budget. These are all things that you will probably have to deal with when you step outside of university. I'm really glad that I started Fast Art because it's one of my main sources of income now as well. It's been taught at universities, galleries, youth clubs, and there's a website being made for it just as we speak as well. So I went back to Tom Nixon and I said, ta-da, look at all the stuff that I've been doing. And he said, well done, I'd like you to come onto my course. So I did another entrepreneurship course, and so we're at the kind of middle of the summer, so a lot had happened already. And I said, okay, I'll do this course. The Fusebox amp was a pilot project at the time, so I was basically a guinea pig with 6 other startups, digital and creative startups. And it was quite an incredible course. It lasted for 1 month in the New England house. And we had 25 different mentors, Google, YouTube, Brandwatch, these type of people who were not telling us how to make money, but more about the problems that they had overcome in order to start a healthy business, which was about solving a problem rather than being a greedy investment. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really interesting, solving a problem and talking to people, this constant talking to people about your project. Yeah, I found it really exciting. And this took me up until the very end of the summer. And on the very last day of the Fusebox amp, I sat down with a mentor and he said, Sophie, Christmas is coming. You should probably begin your first pop-up gallery immediately. And at that point, I really felt like I just wanted to do another 10 courses. But I knew that he was right. Christmas was coming, and that was a time when people would be buying things. So I rounded up 20 artists. And this is the easy bit for me because I know artists, and I know what I like. And I like people, and I like getting people involved with things. So that was totally fine for me. 21 illustrators I got together. That's including me. And we just realized that we needed some money. And this scared me quite a lot because I didn't know how to write a funding application, and I wasn't going to spend my own money on this project. And I really didn't know where else to look, but I started researching it, and I realized that crowdfunding was out there. And crowdfunding is this wonderful idea for raising money. It is an online platform where you put on a film and you tell people what your idea is, and people basically donate money to your project, and you raise the money that you need. So I decided to do a Kickstarter. I can tell you some things about Kickstarters, well, crowdfunds in general. They're amazing publicity, especially if you get lots of people involved. You're constantly sharing this project, this campaign with people. You're asking your families to get involved, your friends, and also strangers. You are constantly talking to people. It's amazing publicity, and it's free, it's online. If anything, you're being paid to do it because you're raising the money for it. It creates urgency. There's a couple of different types of crowdfunding campaigns. Indiegogo is one, Kickstarter is another. I really like Kickstarter because it really has this sense of urgency. With a Kickstarter, you have to raise your funds. You have a target goal, you raise your funds, and if you don't hit your end goal, then you can't keep any of the money. And something about that is really, really urgent. Indiegogo, you can keep the money no matter where you are on the project, but at that point I realized that I like a challenge, I guess. And so I went for a Kickstarter. You don't have to write a funding application on a Kickstarter. You just have to write a little bit about yourself, and you have to explain what your project is. But there is no board who are going to say if it's correct. They let the public decide. If you raise the money, then it means that what you've done is a good idea, pretty much. The artists earn money. They earn the funding. So this is what I noticed. If there is a bank account full of money from somebody who's just done an Arts Council application, And then you get loads of artists involved. The artists really have no idea how much money there is. It's kind of an abstract thing and don't really feel like it's theirs to use. Whereas with a Kickstarter, everybody has to put in a lot of love and effort, and everybody feels that they are earning that money. And I feel like that works better for artists, or definitely a group of people anyway. So this was our first Kickstarter video. Oop.
My name's Sophie Giblin, curator and creator of Kollektiv Gallery. About 3 months ago, I finished my art degree. I saw peers decide that they couldn't carry on being artists, believing that the money was poor and the profession wouldn't pay the bills. Stunned, I spent the summer learning about entrepreneurship and business in order to open a gallery for myself, my friends, and all emerging artists everywhere. My aims were to inspire artists to carry on making artwork, encourage them to DIY exhibit anywhere, anytime, and feel comfortable selling their artwork too. I wanted to create a gallery that was generous, collaborative, ever-changing, and outside of artists' usual academic walls. You see, we're not your conventional art gallery. We're invading Brighton's empty high street shops with the best emerging, studying, and recently graduated illustrators, fine artists, and experimental visual explorers. We're a keen and active DIY group of artists, wishing to inspire and encourage other artists to make more, exhibit more, and sell more. We're rejuvenating the recession-hit, unwillingly abandoned, dusty and forgotten locations with wonderful art, the opportunity to buy stunning, unique new talent, and take part in fantastic workshops all of our artists will be teaching. Our gallery is a pop-up gallery opening for 6 weeks this November for the Christmas season. This gallery is part of a bigger pioneering project for Brighton's youth and emerging artists to be part of a professional, ever-changing, venture-driven environment outside of academic surroundings. Thank you for watching. Please help us by donating and supporting us towards keeping young artists in creative roles. The money that the artist makes will go towards them, and also the next pop-up, which will have an open brief for schools, colleges and universities to explore. Again, thank you so much, and we hope to see you soon.
I'll stop it there. I have some tips if you want to do a crowdfunding campaign. Research is really, really fun on Kickstarter. There is really not very much reading to do. It's mostly watching people's videos and shopping, because when you go onto Kickstarter, you have the option of supporting a project, and there's normally a list of incentives that you can purchase, from key rings to huge cars. I mean, it's just phenomenal fun. I've donated to 5 different Kickstarters now. I think they're all really amazing. And I've got really wonderful things out of them as well. And you're helping a project completely lift off the ground. Clarity, I learnt at the Fuse Box. So the idea with clarity is that you will have a project in mind, and then you write everything about this project out in a kind of one-page manifesto, and then you take all the good stuff out of this and you put it into one paragraph, and then that paragraph you make even smaller into one sentence, and this is your mission statement. And your mission statement should be on all of your social media platforms, your website. Everybody who knows you should know your mission statement. All of your employees or the people involved with your project will know your mission statement. You don't have to have it printed up on t-shirts, but it's there and it is riding along with your whole project the whole way there. Have relevant incentives. For us, it was quite simple. We have artists who make artwork. All of the artists will donate some artwork to the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter will pay for the incentives to be printed. People can buy the artwork, and then our fund will go up. Make a film. I think this is really important, actually. If you go onto Kickstarter, you'll see the projects that were unsuccessful and the ones that were successful. And you'll notice that the unsuccessful projects didn't have a film. Most of the time, they didn't have a film. And this is because people want to see you, they want to meet you pretty much via the internet, and they want to hear your voice, and they want to hear how passionate you are about what you're doing. And they want to know where your money's going as well. I think it's important to say it. If it's on rent, tell them it's rent. If it's on hiring staff, they want to know. I want to know where my money's going. Contact the press. magazines, your university, your lecturers, newspapers, blogs, radio, TV, all regional things. They should all know. Write a good press release, make it snappy, one page is enough with some good imagery. Your mission statement should be on there somewhere. Share, 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 share. Like a crazy person, you have to share. Because your project, you decide how long your project's going to be. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. The ones that are 3 months won't make it. That's because people get bored. A 1 month Kickstarter is a really good time to do. You have to share so much in this time. Ask everybody who's involved to share with their families, their friends, strangers. And you have to thank your pledges, because at the end of the day, they are just giving you money. Out of the kindness of their heart, they want you to do well. And even if you don't know them, I mean, that's crazy. The people who don't know you want you to succeed. So you should thank them and update them, I think. This was some research that I did during my first Kickstarter campaign. This is an artist called Mike Perry. He's an illustrator in Brooklyn, and he was starting a Kickstarter so that he could open an exhibition. And I loved what he was doing. It was really similar to what we were doing, but it was a solo show. And the thing that I loved about it the most was this bespoke incentive. For $4,000, you could have a slumber party at this gallery with him at the exhibition, which I just thought was really fun. And so we did something similar, although for not $4,000. For £50, you could send us a photograph of yourself, and we would then draw it for you. And this would be a really nice Christmas present, because it was nearing Christmas at the time. I can tell you that if you have a Kickstarter campaign running for 1 month, halfway through, people will get very bored and irritated because you're sharing it a lot on Facebook. You have to, though. You can't stop. But you have to mix it up a little bit. So I suggest doing a publicity stunt. And a publicity stunt shouldn't just be for crowdfunding. It should be through any single project that you're doing. And it can be as simple as handing out flyers. Or you can do something a little bit more experimental. And this is what we chose to do. 2 weeks into our first Kickstarter, we basically said to everybody, for one night and for one night only, you can have any scuzzy animal of your choice painted onto the very well-known and loved Marwood Cafe wall. You would go onto Kickstarter, you would tell us what you want with a small message, you would tell us what size you want, and you would pay for it. And then you would go over to our website, where there would be a live stream of us painting onto the Marwood Cafe wall. So a little stat. When we first started that Kickstarter, in the first 24 hours, we reached 50% of our target. 2 weeks later, when we did this publicity stunt, by the end of the night, we got all the money that we needed. So it worked. And it's still being written about today. So in the end, we had 86 backers. We raised £3,615, which is an average of £42. There's a few things that you should know, though. With a Kickstarter, you're not taking home £3,615. You're taking home £3,200. Kickstarter need a Kickstarter fee. There's a payment process. There's tax. There's also the chance that people might not have the money in their bank account when it finally comes to the point when the money comes out of their account. The money doesn't come out until the very end day. So actually, you go home with less. So you should always think about that when you're doing your budget. But there's a Kickstarter school. It's awesome. It's mostly videos. It's really fun. You should just watch them. It's really easy to get a hold of it. So the next thing that we had to do once we got the money was find a location. And this was a lot more difficult than I thought, actually, because, I mean, it's a tease. There's so many empty high street shops out there, but they're difficult to get inside of because you don't know who owns them. And it was really frustrating. It got to the point where I was literally knocking on empty high street shop doors and windows, even though there was nobody inside it. It got a little bit crazy, actually. But finally, one day, I met one of my last artists, and I said, this might not happen. And she said, oh, wait, I know somebody who could probably help us. And he did help us. He had a Sussex local produce butchery on St. James's Street, and he gave it to us for £1,500. And that included everything, the internet, the rent, the bills, that kind of thing. And we moved in, and we were open for the whole of December. And this was an incredible space. It was so ugly, but it was so gorgeous at the same time. There were red and white tiles all over one side, and it looked like someone had taken a machine gun to the wall, but I really loved it. Everything about it was DIY and what we were doing. So just so you know, if you were interested in finding a location, it's quite simple now. You can talk to We Are Pop-Up, who can help you find a location in London and in Brighton, and all over actually. There's a great project called Somewhere To, who can find you spaces for free. Empty Shops Network is a really good blog to write to and talk to as well. They're great. It's the guy who wrote the How to Open a Pop-Up Shop for Dummies book, Dan Thompson. He writes on Empty Shops Network. Estate agents are quite good as well, but they do take a lot of money. But I have to say the most powerful thing of them all is word of mouth. If you can ask random people on the street, somebody is bound to know somebody else who will give it to you for free or cheap. So we moved in and we had parties and we had workshops, and our Kickstarter was such incredible publicity that we actually had a huge queue on the opening night, and it was great. So here's what it looked like inside. We had printmakers, carpenters, fashion and textile designers, terrariumists. These are terrariums. We had pom-poms. We had a lot of illustration. We did workshops. Fast art was so important to me, my workshop, that I encourage every single artist who comes into Kollektiv to also teach a workshop. This is for so many different reasons. One, to keep lots of people coming in and out of the gallery, it's really important, but also to teach. There's something about teaching and passing on a skill which is so beneficial for you, and it can really help your confidence as an artist and a designer. So this was Drinky Doodle. The idea is obviously to drink and to doodle. There's no hierarchy. Everybody has the same pen. It was a really fantastic workshop. So once the project finishes, there's going to be this dip in your online presence. And you have to stop that from happening because people will forget about you. It's really important to keep your brand alive. So we do something called picture interviews. This is nothing new, but it's just a really awesome way of interviewing artists. So you ask, well, I would ask 10 questions, and you reply visually. So we keep these going. It is really key to have an online and also an offline appearance. We also had a shop. Really, the crowdfunding platform did so well. And having a shop was a really massive step. I never thought I was going to have an online shop. I thought this would be really, really difficult. And I'm very lucky that my boyfriend is a web developer. We worked together to put a shop together and a website. There was this really incredible day where I got an email a personal email from Caroline Lucas saying, so that's Brighton's MP, saying, I would like to put you forward for an award. And I was like, is somebody playing a freaking joke on me? What's going on? And so now my title is Most Outstanding Social Entrepreneur of the Southeast. And that day I also got a really amazing email from the university. I'd basically put forward an application to make some money for the next gallery. And I got an email on the same day that I got that email from Caroline Lucas saying, we'd like to fund your next gallery. So that was a really, really good day. Caroline Lucas is now the patron of Kollektiv Gallery as well. So the next gallery began. Death by Gallery. I called it Death by Gallery because I have to admit, during the first gallery, I worked so hard, I got a really terrible nervous twitch, and I could have collapsed. So this was really tongue-in-cheek, Death by Gallery. But the idea was to ask the question, what does it take to stay creative? And for me, working day and night on Kollektiv was what kept me creative. So, here were the new artists. Oh no, it's okay. So this was the new Kollektiv group. There were 50 applicants. We whittled it down to 10 in the end. Because the University of Brighton were funding us, I decided to aim this call for submissions at the University of Brighton students. And we did another Kickstarter. One of the things that I promised to all of the artists who come and get involved in Kollektiv, that you will leave knowing how to do a Kickstarter campaign. I won't show you the video, but there were 71 pledges. And because this idea of challenges seemed to be kind of controlling my life, instead of a 1-month Kickstarter campaign, we decided to do it in just 2 weeks, just to really push it, you know, see what can happen. We only needed a little bit of money. We didn't need £3,500. We only needed £2,200 just to top up what we had already from the university. And we did it. So we moved into a new empty high street shop. And we had an opening party, and where there were 400 people. It was incredible. The Lick Boys had come down. These are frozen yogurt guys in Brighton. We had 10 Green Bottles who were supplying the alcohol. Kaleidoscope were there doing the DJing. And here's some of the artwork. Teddy Chan, a sculptor. Ceramics, this is Steffi Holmes' work. Andy Felton. We sold artwork. We gave workshops. Again, because of Fast Start, because of the first gallery, everybody gave a workshop. Paper planes, taxidermy, ceramics, how to grow plants without a garden. What else was there? Cosmic collage. This is an idea of what we were doing. And here is the alumni for the Spring Kollektiv Death by Gallery. Now the gallery is closed. We do lots of different things in between. Like I said, we don't let things dip. There are lots of projects for people to get involved with, and the artists carry on working together. This is a traveling journal. So the idea is that each artist will have 2 pages, and it gets taken around the country or whatever. It goes with each of the artists for a certain amount of time. When we filled up this harmless, adorable little project that, you know, takes no time to make, we'll be photographing it and making it into a publication that will be sold. There's always an end to every project, which I want to try and teach people. Whatever great idea you have to take it to the very end, because something incredible will come from it. Again, picture interviews. This is one artist who did a picture interview with me, but he seemed to have a kind of dry zone for a while and hadn't been making very much work. So I said to him, I'll ask you a question every day and you'll reply visually. And he makes such great work. And this particular one, I said, illustrate bravery versus courage. And he just did that in half an hour. I thought it was beautiful. So we do other things as well. One of the things that we do is help the artists who were alumni, to carry on making artwork, but in different styles, in different places. And this was a project about putting murals into walls that really needed some extra love and attention. And we did it inside an office space. I'm showing you a lot of video because video is one of the best ways to get your idea out to other people. At the end of the day, a lot of people are scanning it very quickly through everything that you read on the internet. And the best way to get that information through to them is through a really snappy little 1-minute video. So now, the second collective has finished, and we're working on Brighton Illustration Festival, and at the moment I'm in funding mode, getting ready for the very final gallery in Brighton. And this is going to house 60 artists. And when the brief goes out, I'll be letting you all know about it. Anyway, thank you for your time. And if you want to carry on following me or whatever, that's my stuff. Cool.
Well, we can take questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Question time.
From anyone? Before we... No, any questions?
Yes?
When you were selling the work at the galleries, did you take commission on that as well to raise money?
Yeah. So normally galleries take 50%, but at Kollektiv I take 35% because the project's about helping people make money. So yeah, 35%. Yes.
How do you go about asking, for example, you had 10 green bottles and stuff, how do you go about approaching them to say, hi, do you want to give me some free wine?
Yeah, you go into 10 green bottles and you say, hey, I'm doing this really cool thing and I feel like you should get involved. Do you want to get involved? And they'll be like, I don't know if I want to get involved because I help out a lot of galleries. And I'm like, I'll give you 5 good reasons why you should get involved. What I'm doing is different. And I really care about this project. And I really like what you're doing. And then you stay for a glass of wine. And hopefully by the end you've done your schmoozing. And you promise him again that what you're doing is going to be really good for his reputation. And it is good for his reputation. And that you're going to give him a lot of social media coverage. That normally helps as well to kind of hook him in. But go in there with those 5 reasons why they should support you. Any more questions? Yes.
With the funding, is there like something you go through, or do you just approach people that you think might give you funding?
So Kickstarter funding or?
Like with the university funding.
So I started looking into kind of entrepreneurship help really early on last summer, so I did those courses. But one of the other things that I did was go back to this university, because universities are there to help you, even if you're alumni, and they have an entrepreneurship program called Be Purple, and all you have to do is just say, I need some help, and they'll help you forever because you're alumni. It's incredible. Until the day you die, or when they die. It's incredible. People don't know about it. So I was really I was really enjoying this time with this woman called Claire. Yeah. Yeah. Basically, I sat down with Claire Griffiths and I started getting advice from her about Kollektiv. And she was the one who said, hey, we actually have got this fund. It's called the Ideas Fund. And they've got loads of little pockets of money. And it doesn't matter what university you're from, they will always have a little pocket of money that you can work towards. It's an ideas generation brief, so you have to come from it in a really ideasy way, and you have to have a solid idea, and you have to have this business format about it with a budget. But yeah, you send it off and you wait 3 weeks, pretty much. Other than that, there's Arts Council application funds and loads of different ones on ArtQuest that you can go to as well. Any more questions?
So did you give your Kickstarter funders a thing?
Yeah. That's right. So we had a long list of incentives that they could choose from stickers. So we asked all of the artists just to kind of make a small sticker with the logo on it. So you could go and get a £2 sticker, so you'll get loads of stickers with that. I was also doing a PDF file about how to do a successful Kickstarter that people could pay £2 for as well. So as little as £2, up to as expensive as £500, which is a bundle of stuff. You can have your portrait painted, you can have me come and do a workshop, you can have 5 different prints, and in between are all the different types of prints that you can have from all of the different artists. Or, this one was quite interesting, you can have some art bread baked for you for £50. It's quite interesting. Anyway, yeah, so everybody got something. Some people don't want an incentive though. They just want to help you out, which is really amazing. So they have to get an extra special thanks, and you need to just write to them on Kickstarter. Anybody?
Did you
Because
No.
it sounds like you're constantly on the go.
It's really interesting because I do get my sleep, but the thing about this project is some people say to me, God, it must be really difficult, you know, doing this all the time. And I was like, this is the most luxurious job in the world. I'm the luckiest person to have this awesome job where I just connect cool artists to each other and kind of stimulate this really fun and joyful atmosphere. I'm the luckiest person, and this doesn't tire me out. Like I just feel really privileged to be doing this. But yeah.
Yeah, so really, a lot of energy. Any more questions from anybody?
Are you able to kind of live off this now, or are you finding another job as well?
So fast art is one of the ways that I make money. These talks that I do is another way. Kollektiv is not sustainable. It has to be funded. It's not a business. It's a not-for-profit organization, so we have to be funded. I live off the artwork that I sell, my 35%, but it's mostly doing talks and workshops. Kollektiv is an entity on itself, but so far that's because we've done small pockets of funding. Actually, this funding that I'm going for at the moment, which is an Arts Council funding, will pay me very well. So it really depends on what kind of funding I go for. So if anything, that's the thing that keeps me up at night, is writing funding applications and hoping that I get them. Yeah. Yes?
You know, you said that this one's going to be an art and environment.
Yeah.
Is that because you're going to do more somewhere else, or because you're not going to do galleries anymore?
Our Kollektiv will carry on, yeah. We're taking it on tour. So, yeah. It's all hush-hush at the moment, I'm sorry. We can come to Hastings if you want. Do you have empty shops?
Well, I've got good contacts there.
Ah, okay, cool. Well, we'll talk after. Yeah, no, Kollektiv will carry on, and it will go on tours. So it really depends what comes up and what funding is available. But there are types of funding on the Arts Council for tours, so you can literally pay yourself to go on holiday with this abroad if you want to. There's something called the Winston Churchill Trust that can take your company into another country, or you can just do it through Arts Council. Yeah. I guess that's,
Yeah, well,
if there's anything else, no?
Yeah, okay, well, thank you very much. That's really interesting. Really inspiring. I can pass a lot on to students and things now. It's very good.
Super, super, cool.